Before there is a garden, before there is a man formed from dust and breath, before there is a name like Adam spoken aloud in Scripture, there's a world already full of stories. Humanity did not wake up in silence. Long before Genesis was written down, people across the ancient Near East looked at the sky, the sea, the storms, the rhythms of life and death, and asked the same questions we still ask today. Where did everything come from? Why is the world ordered, yet fragile? What is our place within it all? Genesis enters that already speaking world, not as an echo, but as a quiet, steady voice that reshapes the conversation. When we open the first words of Scripture, we are not stepping into a vacuum. We are stepping into a moment where competing visions of reality existed side by side. Understanding this does not weaken Genesis. It deepens it. It allows us to hear its claims with greater clarity and reverence. Genesis is not borrowing meaning from surrounding cultures. It is responding to them, correcting them, and gently redirecting the human imagination toward a different vision of God, creation, and humanity. This is Bible Scope, your place to find light, find truth, and find purpose. If this journey speaks to your heart, like the video and subscribe to walk through Scripture with us. The opening line of Genesis is simple, yet profound. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. With these words, Scripture makes a claim that quietly overturns many ancient assumptions. There is no battle here, no divine, no struggle among rival gods. There is simply God, already present, already sovereign, bringing all things into being by His will. To modern ears, this may sound familiar. To ancient listeners, it was radical. In many ancient Near Eastern cosmologies, creation begins with chaos personified. Disorder is not just a state of matter. It is a force, often hostile, often divine. The world comes into being through conflict, violence, and the subjugation of one power by another. Order is fragile, constantly threatened by a return to chaos. Humanity, in these stories, exists largely as an afterthought, created to serve the needs of the gods, often as laborers to relieve divine burden. Genesis speaks into this worldview with deliberate restraint. It does not deny that chaos exists, but it refuses to give chaos divine status. When we read that the earth was without form and void, and that darkness was over the face of the deep, the language is evocative but controlled. The deep is not a god. Darkness is not a rival power. Over these waters, the Spirit of God hovers, attentive, unthreatened, ready to bring order. Chaos is not an enemy God must defeat. It is material God shapes. This distinction matters deeply. It tells us something about the nature of God. He is not reactive. He is not one among many. He does not create out of fear or necessity. He creates freely. And because He is not locked in conflict, creation itself is not born from violence. It is born from intention. As the days of creation unfold, we see a pattern of separation and naming. Light is separated from darkness. Waters are separated from waters. Land emerges from the sea. In the ancient world, to name something was to exercise authority over it. Genesis presents God as the one who defines reality, not by force, but by word. And God said becomes the heartbeat of the text. The universe is portrayed as intelligible, ordered, and responsive to its maker. This stands in contrast to many surrounding narratives, where the world is unpredictable because it reflects the unstable personalities of the gods. In Genesis, creation is stable because God is faithful. The sun, moon, and stars are not deities. They are lights placed in the sky to mark seasons and days. This quiet demotion of celestial bodies is significant. What others worship, Genesis presents as servants of a greater purpose. This is not mockery, it is reorientation. Humanity's place within this ordered world is where Genesis becomes most distinctive. In many ancient stories, humans are created from the blood of defeated gods or from leftover materials, designed to serve as workers for divine beings who grow tired of maintaining the cosmos. In Genesis, Humanity is formed with care. God speaks, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Whatever mysteries surround this phrase, its implication is clear. Humans are not expendable. They're not slaves. They reflect something of God Himself. Being made in God's image does not mean humans are divine. It means they are entrusted. They are given responsibility to steward creation, to reflect God's character within the world. Dominion here is not exploitation. It is guardianship. The language of Genesis 1 and 2 emphasizes care, cultivation, and relationship. Humanity's role is to participate in God's ongoing work, not to replace Him. This vision quietly challenges ancient hierarchies. If all humans bear God's image, then worth is not limited to kings or priests. Dignity is not earned through power. It is given by God. This idea would have been both unsettling and hopeful in a world structured by rigid social divisions. As we move from Genesis 1 into Genesis 2, the pace slows again. The focus narrows. We are invited to linger. The man is formed from the dust of the ground, and God breathes into him the breath of life. This image bridges heaven and earth. Humanity is both humble and exalted, dust and breath, earth and spirit. This balanced anthropology stands apart from views that either degrade humanity or elevate it beyond its proper place. The garden narrative that follows reinforces this balance. The world is not a prison to escape, nor a god to worship. It is a gift to receive and tend. Work is present before disobedience enters the story, which tells us that labor itself is not a curse. Meaningful activity is part of human design. The command not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil introduces moral responsibility. Freedom exists, but it is relational. Trust is at the center. When we consider the ancient context, the tree of knowledge is especially striking. In many traditions, divine knowledge is dangerous, guarded, or monopolized by the gods. Humans who seek it are punished not for disobedience, but for overreaching their station. Genesis presents the issue differently. The problem is not knowledge itself, but the desire to define good and evil apart from God. Autonomy replaces trust. The rupture that follows is relational before it is legal. This helps us see that Genesis is not primarily answering scientific questions about material origins. It is addressing foundational questions about meaning, order, and relationship. It tells us who God is in a world filled with competing claims. It tells us who we are in a cosmos often experienced as hostile or indifferent. The ancient Near Eastern backdrop also sharpens our understanding of Sabbath. When God rests on the seventh day, it is not because He is weary. It is because creation is complete. In some ancient stories, rest comes only after chaos is barely contained. In Genesis, rest flows from harmony. God's rest invites humanity into a rhythm of trust, reminding them that the world is sustained by God, not by endless human striving. This has personal significance. Many of us live as though the world depends entirely on our effort. Genesis gently challenges that assumption. It invites us to rest, not as escape, but as participation in God's order. Rest becomes an act of faith. As we reflect on these chapters, it becomes clear that Genesis is engaged in a theological conversation with its environment. It uses familiar language, shared symbols, and common questions, but it redirects them toward a distinct vision. God is one. Creation is good. Humanity is dignified. Chaos is not ultimate. Relationship matters. This does not mean Genesis dismisses all other ancient insights. It means it discerns. It acknowledges the human impulse to seek meaning and then reveals where that impulse finds its true fulfillment. Scripture does not fear comparison. It invites careful reading. For us today, this approach offers guidance. We also live among many worldviews. Voices around us offer different explanations for who we are and why we matter. Genesis does not shout over them. It speaks calmly, confidently, inviting us to see reality through the lens of a faithful creator. Reading Genesis with awareness of its ancient context helps us avoid shallow interpretations. It keeps us from forcing the text to answer questions it was never meant to answer, while helping us hear the answers it is offering. It reminds us that Scripture is both ancient and living, rooted in history, yet speaking into every generation. Spiritually, this journey invites humility. We are not the first to wrestle with these questions. Faith does not require ignorance of the past. It invites wisdom. When we see how Genesis engages its world, we learn how to engage ours. Thoughtfully, prayerfully, without fear. What does this reveal about God? He is not threatened by questions. He is not diminished by comparison. He reveals himself patiently, in language people can understand, without compromising truth. What does this reveal about humanity? We are meaning seekers, shaped by stories, capable of both trust and rebellion, created for relationship. As we sit with these opening pages of Scripture, we are invited not only to learn, but to listen, to let the text read us as we read it, to notice where we still live as though chaos is ultimate, or as though our worth must be earned. Genesis calls us back to a beginning where goodness is declared before it is achieved. As we've walked through this passage, what truth stood out to you? How might it shape the way you live today? If this exploration helped you grow, like the video and subscribe. Your journey through the pages is just beginning.